Hey guys, it's Carly.
Hey, it's Shamina. And
And
we're
we're
emotions full. I don't think we're ever going to get that right.
I
So,
don't think virtually now.
no. For those of you who can see us on YouTube, we have a special guest today. For everybody who is tuning in and listening, we have a special guest today. So allow me to introduce our guest to all of you. So Risa is a 25-year-old single mother who has planted the seeds from her challenges to grow a life that she used to only dream of. Risa is the owner and CEO of her company, Elevate 333. Through Elevate 333, she serves clients by offering Reiki healings, intuitive tarot readings, and mentoring in things like spirituality, neural manifestation, and conscious relationships. Risa also hosts conscious, yes, I'm saying that correctly, parenting workshops, teaching parents about the developing subconscious mind and the importance of their own inner child work. Risa's work is the embodiment of her soul passions. So please allow us in welcoming Risa to the podcast today.
Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you explain, because your bio, there's like so much information in there. So can you kind of in layman's terms, like explain to us what you do?
Yes. And that is so descriptive of just who I am. There's just like a whole bunch going on at all times. But it kind of felt unfair. Yeah. It was unfair to like limit it to one thing. I'm very multi-passionate, but what I put in the business is truly where I went all in, heart and soul. So I am Reiki attuned. I'm a Reiki practitioner, which is energy healing. That has been so transformative in my life because even though I was understanding like the mindset of how to go through things and I was really working with my mindset, there was a lot of energetic weight on my body that I was carrying with me, as well as I am very sensitive to energy with people in general. So when there's like that heavy energy when you walk in a room, like it would sit with me. It wouldn't just like fade off. So through Reiki, I've really been able to work through that. And I've grown up in a household that was very spiritually conscious. Like it wasn't ever like you have to believe this or else. It's very open and flowing. And they always had like that movie documentary thing, The Secret, that was always playing in the background. So I always knew about manifestation and a spiritual side of things, but I was going to this like private Baptist school that was the opposite of everything that I was hearing at home. It was very strategic. So I grew up with both sides of it. And then as I got older, I was like, okay, I was trying to feel out what felt authentic and right to me. So through studying and certifications, I really found my core, which is in mindset work, subconscious mind, as well as the energy work. And then I specify in conscious parenting and relationships because those are like the core of who I am.
Mm-hmm. So what does that look like in, well, let me backtrack first. And so you have a degree in kind of the field that you're in, so to speak, or some type of certification. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah, they call it practitioner licensing. So neuro-linguistic practitioner licensing. So that's like subconscious mind work, practitioner licensing in trauma healing, somatic trauma, and then Reiki, you get an attunement and once you get that attunement, you're a Reiki practitioner. So they just got little weird words for them.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. How did you kind of get to, I guess, like this place? Like obviously you kind of, you talked about how you're trying to find things that like were more authentic for you, and you were kind of raised in, going to school with like a Baptist school. And so what was kind of your journey through your own kind of spirituality and where you're at now, or even kind of breaking out of like the family like spirituality, like going to Baptist school? Obviously you're you know, you practice more than just like the organized religion?
So I'm trying to break this cycle, but I just feel like up until like 23, my life has been a cycle of like having to fall to learn my lessons. So now I'm trying to like catch myself before we get that far. But it really took it really took everything crumbling down to get here. I had a great household, but besides just having my two parents, my grandmother was like a third parent. So she had passed away. Um, then there was just, I've been in toxic relationships, and then having my own son. Once I had him, that's really what shifted everything. That's what made me review everything that I saw in my life, like the religion, spirituality, relationships, everything. I was like, I cannot ask you to be the best while not giving the best to myself. So I had to start really sitting with myself. What do I really feel? What is best for me? How can I live an authentic life and do what makes me happy? And then from doing that, now I can ask you to do the same. You have that example. I'm not just wishing that for you.
I think
So,
that I think that is such an amazing way to think about it and having a child, because I think so many people, when they have a kid, they put themselves on the back burner to give them their kids, the best for them, but your kids see that and they sense that. And so I think that it is important that, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's very hard, but I think it's so important to continue to also put yourself first, even as a parent or anything like that, because then I think, like you said, like your kid sees that, and how can you ask your kid to be the best they can be when they see you're not doing that for yourself? And then I think like that's also kind of like you see it in society of like, be the best that you can be, but then all around us we're like, like breaking ourselves down trying to meet all of these standards and everything in society of working 9 to 5, doing all of these things, being a parent, all of being the best you can be, but it's exhausting. So I think kind of, I don't know. I know I'm rambling, but I just really liked that mindset that you went off of like, you have to show like, you lead by example. And I think that that's just so amazing that that's your mindset with the parenting. Cause I know it's hard. Well, I don't know cause I'm not a parent, but I assume it's hard.
no, thank you. You said it perfectly as well, because that's another key factor to it is there is no perfect way to live your life. Like marry at this age, kids at this age, 9 to 5, house in this city. That's really, there's no one size fits all. So
Mm-hmm.
in all of my woo and all of my crazy little things, I'm living an authentic life. And he saw I had to jump in blind, but it's not a certain model that he has to follow, but he can say at the end of the day, my mom is living an authentic life and she is so happy. So that's what he knows. And a big factor in that is I saw relationships where the parents had stayed together, but they didn't love each other. It was very, even if it wasn't like physically abusive, it was mentally abusive.
Yeah.
So when the kids grew up and got into their own relationships, that's their definition of a loving family. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, nope, I guess single mom will do, because you are going to know true love. Whether I'm a single mom for the rest of my life, I'm in love with my life. And I am very conscious of who I'm bringing around myself, because I know it's affecting the whole environment. And I just want him to keep that authenticity around what a loving relationship is, whether it be platonic or romantic, that he's like, okay, this is a genuine energy around me. I feel safe and supported. So when he sees somebody coming in with like manipulation, he's like, we don't do this. This doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and I think again, going back, that's just like a really good way to, because like you said, like I think society makes us like we need to be married at this age, we need to have a kid at this age. And I think I was just talking to Shamina that I'm finally like out of that mindset of like, you know what, I'm okay if I never have kids. Like I'm at this phase right now. Like, I remember just like, even just as little as 3 years ago, I was like, you know what? I want a kid within a year. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I did not have a kid because I'm not ready for a kid. And so I think I just thought that that's what I wanted because society makes you think that at like 25, 26, you should be thinking about kids, you should be thinking about settling down. And like, now I'm at this, I'm only 27, but I feel that is so young. That is still so young. People are living to like 80, 90, and yet we have people telling us 27 is old and what are you doing with your life? I don't know. I don't know. Okay? Like
Yeah. And can you imagine throwing a kid into that equation?
absolutely not. No.
And I think that mindset is it's so simple, but it's so profound. And I talk to my clients a lot about it because, you know, they're like, Shamina, I can't do this or I can't do that. And I'm like, well, how can you possibly do anything for anybody else or be there in your best way for anybody else if you're not taking care of yourself? And even as a therapist, like that's my like priority number one, like rule number one, because if I'm not taking care of myself or I'm not okay in any sense of that word, I can't show up for my clients in an authentic way. I can't hold space for them. I can't be there for my partner. I can't be there for my friends or my family. And so I think there's kind of this like beautiful like symmetry about, you know, this is something, it kind of goes against like everything that society says, because it's like produce, give, but it's also like we don't live in a world where they allow us to focus on ourselves, or like, hey, like I'm having a mental health day, I need to call off work. Like that's usually not a legitimate excuse to miss work. Like people, there's a lot of backlash with that. And so I think it's beautiful that you're in a position where you can even, you know, for the work that you do, you continue to have that framework and that mindset and gesundheit.
Ah, Donka. I muted myself though.
I noticed, I was like, why is there no sandwiches? But I think that's amazing and fantastic. And it seems like your son is also very receptive to like your energy and kind of like picking up on some of these behaviors that you're embodying and modeling for him.
Yeah, he is amazing. He's only 3, but he knows who he is. And it's just so funny to watch because we've always had a really great relationship. But ever since I really understood that from 0 to 7, that's when the subconscious mind is formed. And I'm very conscious of everything that he's taking in is becoming the program that he'll run off of unless he changes that. I'm very open to just letting him show me the world. Honestly, I would love to see the world through an unfiltered lens again. That's what we all try to get to before like people's opinions mattered and whatever else comes into play. Before you have to like, okay, you're 25, you have to be married. So now I have to like you were saying before, like I have to get married this year. I have to have a kid this year. So you're like filtering it out, like who's gonna be the best out of what I see right now. It's just like, all right, show me an open world and how to go about that. What do I want to do right now? And healthy perimeters to living that lifestyle.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you. So with your, what do you call it? Reading sessions, appointments, how do you classify one? So I make sure that I use proper language.
I kind of alter like sessions to what somebody needs. There's sometimes where I can just do a Reiki healing. And in my Reiki healings, what I do, because I channel, I do a lot of intuitive work as well. So you go through, and as I go through the chakras, I say what comes up. Okay. I get a lot of visuals. I get a lot of like sensations. So I will just say whatever comes through. And we go from there. But I also do sessions where we'll do that. And I do whatever the client is comfortable with. Some clients are so comfortable with tarot, they just want a tarot spread as well. So we can go off of that. For clients who aren't as comfortable with tarot, I have oracle decks, or we can just talk through it. I offer different things because I don't believe that there is, again, one size fits all. I think everything is a different modality. It's a different tool that can get you the same answers. But what matters at the end of the day is how receptive the client is. So if I'm using tarot and this is somebody who is not comfortable with tarot, their energy is blocked off because they're feeling uncomfortable. So I can't read them. I can't just go ahead and like, every person that I pass on the street, I'm like, I know all your dirty secrets. It's your energy. Are you open? When you're comfortable, you're more open and your truth can come through.
So I have so many questions, so I'm gonna dive in. Now, when you have a client, when they walk in, can you immediately be like, oh, they have blocked energy? And then like maybe when you sit down and start asking them questions, then you start to learn like maybe what part of them is blocked, or like even right now with us on Zoom, like could you tell our energy? Or does it have to be like an in-person thing where you're with that person one-on-one?
I can sense energy immediately, but it's just more so the energy. It's the what's blocking, what's coming up that I don't tap into because that is their own energy. That is like a moral, like ethical thing in energy work. Like if you're using this as a modality. But the best part of it is like energy work. Yes, there are practitioner licensing. There's different things you can do to really like niche down on your craft, but everyone is intuitive by nature. But what we do is when we accept friendships that are not healthy and we're in a relationship that, we have to kind of like filter ourselves down for, we keep shutting down our intuition. And that was something I did in a previous relationship, is that I loved this person so much that when things got bad, I was like, nope, I don't want to feel that gut feeling right now. So you numb it out. So we go through our lives continually numbing out our intuitive sense on this doesn't feel right. Because we're like, it has to. But that's a big part of it.
Well, I think it's interesting because I feel like that kind of happened with me, but I feel like you can only numb your intuition for so long before it, like, I think almost like explodes, quote unquote, because I think I did that in my past relationship of like, I was just like, no, I love this person. Like, this isn't a bad feeling or this isn't whatever. But it got to a point to when then I was just like, oh my God, like, I can't ignore it anymore, and I think that's kind of what led it. So I feel like you definitely can't, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you can definitely numb it, but I feel like you can only do that for so long before your body is like, listen, I'm not letting you do this again, and I'm not letting you ignore me.
I think you just have, honestly, in my terms, you have a really good guardian angel with you. Like because I've seen people stay.
Really.
And usually they don't, especially relationships where you see your partner for security, like you don't have the means to leave, you have children, you think you have to stay. And so instead of, usually if you're more scared of your spouse and you, like I said, you feel like you can't leave, you kind of project that on everyone else. So everyone else you're kind of exploding on, or your family can sense that. So you disassociate from your family. Like you have to literally just build a wall around your life so you don't even hear the outside influence, because you just kind of like check out. Like, I'm done. I almost hit that wall when my grandma passed away. I thought that life was meaningless. I could have cared less about anything. I just wasn't invested. And so I was like attracting people into my life who kept validating that. They treated me like I was nothing. They just really solidified that idea in me. And I went in blind. Like I had a baby. I left the hometown that I grew up in. I lived there my whole life. And I just left, quit my job, all of this, like just jumped in blind. I didn't have a safety net to go off of. But I jumped and now I'm in a town I love. I have a business that I love. I am a kind of happy that I didn't know existed. And it's not that things don't happen. I loved your podcast from the beginning because of how honest you are about healing from your relationship and the things that you both have worked through in your lives to get here. And I still have serious stuff going on. Since starting this work, I got into a very serious, it was the first person I have ever truly loved. And I've had to grieve that relationship because it was inauthentic to who I was and I had to leave and I didn't want to. It is still making the really tough call, but as we said before, putting yourself first.
Definitely. And I think there's a lot of similarities between what you do and what I do as a therapist, because even Carly, when you were like asking, like, if somebody like walks in the room, like, can you read their energy or things like that? Like, when I'm in a session with somebody or like before the session, like you can just kind of get a feel, whether it's like body language or just kind of how they're behaving and things like that. And I used to get asked all the time, like if I was in social settings, like, oh, are you like diagnosing everybody right now? Or like, oh, you can like, all of our dirty secrets because you're listening and you're like analyzing everybody. And I was like, that's not really how that works. You kind of have to be in the right space to be able to do that. I can acknowledge things and be like, oh, I think that's this or that's that. But I think there is definitely a lot of similarities, because even, with the, like what we were just talking about, like with saying in relationships or not listening to yourself because you're kind of like blocking off those pieces of you. Like that's why people come to therapy, because it's for more of like a clinical side. Is like, we continue to minimize, or we don't pay attention to these things, or now we start dissociating, or now we're projecting, or now we're doing all of this stuff and we don't know how to cope, or we don't know what to do with how we're feeling because we block it off and we avoid it for so long. And 9 times out of 10, that's why I tell my clients we come to therapy, because we outgrow our old coping skills. And 9 times out of 10, it's usually like avoiding or distracting ourselves from feeling our feelings because we don't want to, and they're uncomfortable, and they're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Like that is true. And so I always call it like we need like an update. How can we update your mind or your brain on like, this is how we cope, this is how we deal with feelings, this is what we do. And so kind of as you guys were talking, I was like, well, damn, like I do that in therapy. Like that's what I do, but on a different but also similar kind of wavelength, I think.
No, exactly. And that's one thing is, before I have a session, it's the same as you, as you're saying, the environment. I don't just like go about my life and then just, oh, I have an appointment in 5 minutes and then hop on. It is a process of taking myself out of it. I am separate. The things that I say in a session, or even I've noticed in my other podcast interviews, I'm like, look at her go. Like she just like showed up. I take myself out of it. I take my, like, they call it like ego mind out of it, and let my like conscious, like subconscious truth come through, because it's not about me or what my opinion is. I don't necessarily like to hear, how do I phrase this? I never ask questions. Like when a client's coming in, I'm not like, all right, so tell me what's going on. And they say something about a breakup. And then I'm like, I'm sensing a breakup. Like I want to tell you what comes through. And then if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, let's see where we're going with this. But I don't need the answers fed to me. When we do healing sessions, there's a lot of times I do healings around removing the energy of a past partnership or something from someone. And those will kind of give me more information. But if I'm doing an intuitive reading, I'm stepping aside. So I can just give you an unbiased like projection of what's coming through. So it's not like a moral thing.
I have a question. Now, can you break down, obviously it's always different, but if there's a way for you to break down how you typically go, or like what it is that you do in a session. The reason I ask, and maybe if I explain it, you might understand better, is like, for me, I was terrified to go, because my understanding is I'm going to go and they're going to tell me something horrible is going to happen to me, and I don't want to hear that, so I'm not going. So I think really my question is then, like, I don't know, but just what is it that you're ultimately doing? Does that make sense? Am I making?
No, I love that.
Asking is like, what does a typical session like look like, and kind of walking us through what that may look like.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's a perfect question, all of it, because what any kind of intuitive reading is, and truly, I don't see any other way to put this. It is only where your energy is at right now. If you were to go to an intuitive reader or a psychic, whatever kind of mediumship it would be, I do not adhere to the whole this is your life. I don't even see how that's possible. What we're tapping into is your energy right now. If you go to a medium and they say, okay, I see that you're living a long life, blah, blah, blah. And then you just like jump in front of a car, you're like, I'm living a long life. You switched your energy. You decided to do something inauthentic. So to where your energy was at. So when I do a reading, it's where is your energy right now? If you stay where you're at right now with this mindset, what is the energy that's coming through? So we read where it's at right now. You can always shift that. That is why I'm very selective on who I go to. I definitely read my own cards and do my own intuitive check ins, but I only have one person that I'll go to when I want a session to like debrief with someone. I'm very selective on who that is. So I say, like, if you're to ever find an intuitive reader, you have to see where you feel like the energy is authentic and aligned with you. And then what they can do, whatever modality they use, if it is tarot, if it is a more shamanistic practice where they're just channeling the message through and telling you, whatever tool that they use, they're reading your energy right now. If you stay on that track, you can always change it. My energy levels and the things that were coming through to me shifted when I decided to leave my past relationship. When I decided to, like, sometimes I'll play with an idea when I'm reading my own cards. I'll say, okay, the other day I went to a new place, and this place, I felt like I stepped into like a new level of myself. I was feeling so amazing. So I like whipped out my cards and I like did a quick little like 3 card spread. I'm like, all right, what's the energy that I'm feeling here? Like, is this emotion based? Because I feel so good. What is this? And the cards were like, this is like a place of like success for you. You're in a good standing. You're starting a new beginning. So I do like little energy check-ins. Like, all right, like what's the energy here right now? Is this good or is this not? So, and I don't base my life around it. If I don't like what it says, I keep it in mind. Same with horoscopes. Oh my Lord. I've said this before, but I I kind of cringe when I go on social media and it's like we're in a Mercury retrograde right now, and I think it's so amazing to know what's going on an astrological level and the energy at play with these planets. But you see people and they're like, my horoscope says today's gonna be the worst day of my life. So they're starting their day and their subconscious mind is literally programmed to pull the information that matches that belief. So their subconscious mind is like, worst day of my life. What around me is the worst day of my life? And it's only showing you those things. It's like, no, use it as a tool. It says it's going to be a rough day. Acknowledge that. So Mercury retrograde is supposed to be difficult communication. So I keep that in mind. If I feel like I'm not really reaching someone, if I feel like I'm having a hard time communicating with someone, instead of like, oh, Mercury retrograde is out to get me, I'm like, okay, I can keep this in mind. I know this energy is at play. Take a deep breath and do my best going forward. So it's more understanding the energy that's coming through and how can I best go about this.
And I think that brings up a really big thing because a lot of people, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, like this, everything's going to go to shit right now. And so we kind of put that out there and we almost cherry pick like, oh, all these negative things happened to me today. And that's because of Mercury being in retrograde. Or I hear all the time, like, oh, it's a full moon. And that's why, you know, my animals are acting up, my kids are acting up, I'm acting up, like whatever it is. Like we kind of hold on to these I can't remember the specific term for it, but there's a psychological phenomenon that we call it with, you know, like the full moon or just kind of latching onto some of these things, but we almost make them come true because we believe like, all right, things are going to be bad. So when things are bad, it almost validates the negative thoughts that we kind of like manifest for ourselves. Like, all right, it's already happening. So like, this is why it's going down. And Carly, I think going back to what you were asking earlier is that it sounds like what Reese is saying is it's not like predictive about your life. Like, oh, you know, this bad thing is going to happen to you, so be cautious of that. But more so of like in the present moment, like what are you kind of giving off, if I'm understanding that correctly?
Yeah, think of it like a weather forecast, especially in Florida. If they say it's going to rain, we might throw an umbrella in the car, but we're not carrying it around with us in the sunshine. It's that same thing. Like this is where it's at right now. This is what's coming through. So know that, maybe carry an umbrella with you, but you don't have to like just shut yourself down for it. You can still go about your day. You're just aware of the energy at play.
Well, that's good to hear. I
really like that analogy, the weather forecast. I think that's a really great way to conceptualize that.
And I feel like between the conversation with you and Shamina, I kind of laughed to myself because I'm a Taurus, and I will say I don't like, okay, girl. But I laugh because I don't really read it daily or anything, but like two of the qualities of Taurus that I 100% stand by is that I'm stubborn. I'm stubborn as hell, and I'm very sensitive. Like I feel my feels. So I'm like, you know what? Like I totally agree with you of like don't like if it tells you you're gonna have a horrible day, like I think like what you and Shamina said is when we hear that sometimes then we focus on it, and we could have had a great day or even just a normal standard day, but then all we did was focus on the negative. So that's why that sticks out. And then it's like, oh, I had a rough day. So I agree with that, but it's funny because I'm just like, no, I know I'm stubborn. And I know I'm lately, I think since like the since the breakup, I've realized like, ooh, I'm sensitive. Like,
absolutely. And that's where, listen, I love TikTok for new music and I love TikTok for a good laugh, but I am learning grace and just like take a deep breath. It doesn't matter about some metaphysical TikTok, astrology TikTok, because it's like, guys, yes, we have a sun sign, but there's also sun, moon, rising. There's also other houses. So you are not just your sun sign, you're a whole culmination of different pieces. And you just see things on TikTok where they're like, manifest your ex back, like jump in a circle 5 times and then write your name down 7 and their name 7. And there you go. And it's like, first of all, it is no one size fits all. It is what makes you emotionally like in tune. Like same with the energy work. What makes you emotionally comfortable where you're, you're comfortable, you're flowing in the conversation, where you're an open channel. It's the same thing with our other relationships and other pieces. It's like to manifest, because we're all manifesting throughout every day. When we are reading a horoscope and letting that dictate our day, that is manifesting your day. So it's not some wish, it's how our subconscious mind is pulling information and projecting out exactly what we're saying. So it's also a matter of your emotions. You manifest their emotions. So what gets you the most excited or the most upset? I used to listen to music and I love sad songs so much, but the problem is I would manifest every single word to a song. So I was like, okay, it doesn't mean I have to cut it out, but I have to be conscious that when I'm listening to this, I have to separate myself out of it. Don't hear this line and think about that time that I got cheated on. Like, separate it. I love Olivia Rodrigo, but when I'm listening to her songs, I have to separate it from my own personal life, or else I will be crying in bed for a week.
I agree. I definitely can. I don't know what word I'm trying to think of, but I feel you there.
Yeah, we all just got to do the best we can. But I just think that whether people are into cards or not, it's just such a nice reminder to know that we really are in charge. We don't have to take the driver, like, we don't have to like step out of the driver's seat of our own lives and just let whatever the horoscope says or our friends and family say. Like, we can really take control of our lives, what feels good and what doesn't. And sometimes it's going to be trial and error. And that's great because you're learning along the way, but we're ultimately in charge and we can change the direction at any time.
Yeah, I think that's like, I really like that. And I think that sometimes maybe going and having a reading done helps you validate that and almost maybe remember that. Because I think, like you said, of like, I mean, just from what I've never had one done, so I can't say that I know, or I can't speak from experience, but it just sounds to me that, like you said, you read the energy that they have right now, but knowing that that energy can change at any point is, I think, a really great thing to even just get out there. Because again, for me, speaking from not ever having a reading, I was like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what it would be. And so I feel like I've when I was like a little bit younger, I was so interested in like going to a medium, but then I will say, like, once my grandmother passed away, I was like, no, I can't go because I am terrified of what I'm going to be told. And because me and her were very, very close, but I think just you better explaining it and being like the professional, it's like, oh, okay, so that's what that experience would be like, and kind of gives people a better expectation of what will happen.
Absolutely. And again, we're born intuitive, every single person. It's just what our environments that we grew up around, if that's more taboo or not, then we shut that off because of that filter. And if we grow up and we're not ready for it, like when I was in my relationship, I was very close to my grandmother as well. And when I was in my relationship that I really didn't want it to be what it was, but I was really hoping the best for it. I was getting all of these intuitive pulls from my grandma saying, like, listen, like, this isn't it. Like, that you're feeling this. And to the point where I was like, nope, not going to hear you right now. Love you, but like, not right now. I got it. Just 5 more minutes. Like, because like I know what's going on. So in 5 more minutes, if I stay one more day, then at least it's one more day, but I'll be ready for it because I know it's coming. And that lasted for an additional 5 months I was never ready for it. I wasn't more ready for it 5 months later than I would have been the first time I knew that I had to leave. One more night that turned into 5 more months didn't make it any better. It was just more memories then. And actually, it unfortunately, since I knew from that day one that I was supposed to leave, it was almost like it ended up being more negative memories than positive. And I don't choose to see it as that now, but I kept perpetuating something that I already knew. And it was just further pain instead of what I was hoping for, which was, all right, I know what it's going to be. So I'll be more prepared when I actually do leave.
I have another question.
Yeah.
That's Carly's phrase for today. I have
I told you I ask questions. So this is my question. From hearing you speak and everything, would you almost say, like, obviously, okay, from what I'm understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, if someone is like going through a breakup or grieving or going through something in their life that's rough for them, that would result in a blocked energy.
If they are not acknowledging it, that's more so. But what I've noticed, especially where this kind of stems from, I feel like relationships always get the initial, like, that's what everyone goes to when they think of it. But in reviewing the past year and the past couple years of my life, I was like, wait. So I had friends who were gung ho on telling me, oh, yeah, cut him off. He's not showing up for you. But then if I sat and thought about it, those friendships were not showing up for me. So why are we so quick to call out a relationship for it? Let's take review of all of our lives. Like, where is the energy not right? I don't want to accept bad behavior or like bad energy and malicious energy from friendships as well. You don't have to like align with things that don't feel right. And
Mhm.
I had friendships in my life that were really harmful. They were not supportive, they were very manipulative, and that wasn't good either. So it's not just making sure that our romantic partnerships are mutual and expansive, it's friendships, it's family. I've cut off family. I've There's some people that I have family members that, wish my demise more than my people that, you know, exes or past friendships. So I don't have to keep that around because they're family. I want to be authentic. I want to expand in this life. And if you are going to like weigh against that, then I don't have to keep that around.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. So I think I have two parts. One, this is just a little thought. Is it really sounds like boundaries? It sounds like the um episode that me and Shamina had kind of talked about of bad boundaries of like if someone's not showing up for you or you feel like you're always giving in and they're not showing up, you kind of have to cut them off or not maybe cut them off entirely, but you have to set boundaries of like if you're not going to show up for me, then I can't continue to show up for you. So that was my thought, but let me just get this question out or I'll forget. Do you think that a blocked energy and then someone working through it and healing it almost makes their energy after that blocked energy even greater than what it was prior? Like, do you think that maybe sometimes in life experiencing a blocked energy helps us grow and build and have better energy?
Everything, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. There's a reason that we've each stayed in relationships as long as we did, kept the friendships as long as we did, took that wrong turn, failed that class. There's reasons that all of it happened. So through a healing, I'm very big on one of the things that I offer to all of my clients is post session, things might come up for you. You might start understanding things. Reach out to me if you need it. Like, please reach out and I will talk you through it because there's an integration process because you're asking such important questions for this work. When you clear that energy and start working through it, you are going to be more sensitive to energy now. So you're going to notice things right away, but you also don't have to, as you were saying, like in your boundaries episode as well, it doesn't have to be like some big, you know, big, broad, public, evil, malicious goodbye. It's just saying, okay, I see this is where the energy is at. And now I know, like I can go about it. I have grace and love for everyone in my life. Everyone. The most harmful experiences, whatever it may have been, I see it with grace. I know that they're coming at me from what they see as best, or or even if they know they're projecting, if they know they were hurt and are going off of the best they can right now, I see that with grace. I wish you the best. But just because I know where you're coming from and why you're doing what you're doing, that doesn't mean I have to accept that behavior because I'm going through things as well. We each are going through something. We're each trying our best, hopefully. So, with that said, I can see you off with grace and with love, but I'll love you from a distance now.
Any more questions, Carly?
Oh. Well, I
Really-
feel like I could ask a million questions, but yeah, I just think that like what you're talking about really hits home with me. I feel like personally just from the breakup of now I'm trying to be intentional with who I am, what I'm doing and how I move and live my life. Like I think before I was putting so many other people first and not that they were making it like I had to do that, but I just was like putting me on the back burner. But then I realized I was getting burnt and I got to a point where I was so burnt out that like I feel like that whole experience was almost necessary because now I'm learning boundaries. I'm learning to put myself first. And you know what? If there's a day that I am just like, listen, I'm tired, it's okay to have that rest day and not feel guilty and just things like that. So I agree with like, I feel like I went through all of it and there was a reasoning because I needed to learn to put myself first and and, you know, kind of create these boundaries with friends and with family. You know, I think I'm the youngest of the siblings. And I think even sometimes being 27, it's still kind of like when I go back home, it's like I'm the baby and I just have to do what everyone tells me to do because I'm the youngest and that's, you know, it. But it's like, no, I have to remember I'm 27 now. I can say no and I can speak up for myself and do what feels right for me.
But I think
Absolutely.
we also, like how you were saying, like now you're more mindful, you're you know, like setting boundaries, but I also think that those things happen because you're open and receptive to doing that, because you could
Yeah.
also, you know, whenever we go through like tough experiences, we can continue down that cycle and continue doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting a different result, which is a definition of insanity. But I think we we have to be open to wanting to do something different, or to growing, or to our energies, or to receiving, or giving, because otherwise we get stuck in the same type of like cycles and thought patterns, and we don't know how to break out of them because they are so familiar. And you know, being more authentic and cultivating like genuineness in our lives for most of us is a very new concept, and we don't really have a roadmap for what that actually looks like because we're not taught. I think we are in a way, but also from society, like we're not taught to be authentic. We're taught to fit in. We're taught to
Mhm.
fit in with the model of what society says we're supposed to be as people. And so I think it's a lot about kind of looking inward, and are you receptive to kind of these messages that are being told or seen, or you know, even with like an energy reading, is like you take that for what it's worth, and then you get to decide what to do with it, instead of, you know, like latching on and, okay, well, I need to make sure that I'm doing all of these things, or like with the horoscopes, or you know, TikTok, and how literal people take stuff, and that it almost kind of takes away from the genuineness of like what Risa you do, or what other people do, therapy, all of that kind of stuff, if we hold on to like the literal sense of it, instead of like, yes, this fits for me, this feels very authentic, I'm open and receptive to kind of exploring this new side of myself.
Yeah, and I also want to piggyback off of that because like what you were saying of people how sometimes will continue the same cycle but expect a different result. I think like one thing that I was talking about with my therapist is sometimes people do that. Well, most times is because not knowing and uncertainty is very scary and people don't like to not know what's going to happen. And so like I think that was a big thing for me. And also I will comment on I think so much people focus on like the positive aspects of healing, which like obviously that's great, but sometimes I think people forget that healing is not always, you know, being your best self. It's going through and breaking down yourself to rise up to be your best self. And in the process of having to literally break yourself down, like to start from scratch, is very, very hard. And it sucks. It's a lot of, you know, like acknowledging your flaws and kind of just like, dang, like, you know, like it's a lot of hard work that's not always fun. But I think that you remembering the end result is what makes it worth it. But I also want to focus on that timeline of healing and breaking yourself down is so different from everyone else. So like again with like TikTok and stuff, if you see all these people out there like going to the gym every day and it's a week after something bad happens and then let's just say a breakup or whatever, don't get mad at yourself if that's not where you are at your stage, because like I will admit that I was doing that. I'm like, what the heck? Like, why is it taking me so much longer? But that's because everyone's path is different, and healing is not all the glory. I mean, glory comes out of it and it's like an awesome thing, but you have to go through the hard parts and they suck. It sucks not knowing, but I think that that's necessary in like getting to where we want to be, but we have that choice, you know?
Yeah, it's you learn healing is getting grace for others in your life, doing the best they can from what they know, and grace for yourself that you did the best from what you knew then. Because, and I love and I'm in a hypnosis. I'm doing a program that there's a lot of hypnosis work to work through like prior blocks and things like that. And before each hypnosis, it says, please make sure that you are integrating this work. And if anything comes up that's heavy to deal with, that you are reaching out to a licensed professional, that you are reaching out to, that you're going to therapy and talking this out, because it's not supposed to make you feel like more of a victim of your own self. Like, oh man, I was the one who stayed. Why didn't I leave then? It's not supposed to make you feel like more of a victim. It's just giving you that clarity to use forward. So it's not always pretty, but as you said, it's worth it. And you're growing and you're expanding to get where you want to go, because we're just living a repeated version of our past if we're just living in those shadows.
Yeah. And I will say too that one thing that I've noticed along my healing journey is now that I'm being intentional with myself and really, trying to work on myself, it's really hard for me to be around people who aren't and who are almost like falling victim and they won't take ownership to the way that their life is going. I've noticed it's so difficult for me because it's like I'm over here like really intentionally working on myself, and I know it sucks. It sucks, but you can do it. And seeing you over there just blaming everyone else, it's like, oh, like it just like I feel like I was so much more like accommodating or willing to allow it, and now I'm just like this is like really hard to be around.
Yeah, because you're putting in the work and you don't have to sit around and let that happen. That's the biggest thing. You don't even have to say it in person, but love you, wish you the best. Like we all, everyone, I've said this to Shamina before, but everyone says they're an empath nowadays. And I don't think that's the case. I actually don't think that there's that many empaths. But even with that said, you can have grace for others and not have to bear their weight. You don't have to put up with, if they aren't ready to heal, okay, that's great. It took me a lot before I was ready to heal my stuff. But when I did, I couldn't be around things that weren't on that same level, because what I'm going through, it's not, as you said, it's not easy to heal. So I love you. I just can't intertwine with this right now. Like I'm going through my own things as well. And I would love to support you if you are on your healing as well. But if every time I talk to you, we're just like speaking a different language and I leave feeling worse, I'm sorry, but my energy, I have to put myself first, or else who is?
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I think with the empath thing, I totally agree with that, because I think a lot of people who may identify, I think they're genuinely, yes, there are people who are more empathic than others, but also I think it's a really big sign that you may have a lack of boundaries, because being an empathic person, you're not supposed to like take on everybody's emotions and like, here, I'll hold them, it's fine, it's okay. And so I think a lot of people, they have that type of mindset, but it's like, no, you don't know how to set boundaries, because if you were able to do that, then you can be receptive and kind of be in that empathic state with somebody without having to take on the burden of their own emotional experience, because that's not what it is. And I think kind of going back to like the healing stuff is, as you guys were talking, I think growth and healing and being receptive to our own energies and kind of going through this process, it's a lifelong process. And it's not like, all right, I'm going to do this one time, I'm going to go to therapy for this one thing, and then afterwards, like, I'm good for the rest of my life. And I think it's so much more circular than what we consider as like this linear. I think we consider life very linear, but the things that happen in life to us and our experiences are extremely circular as we kind of continue going down this path. And that I think there's so much to be said about the support from other people in growth and healing, because it's not something like, yes, it happens intrinsically and we have to kind of want that and going through the motions of making those changes for ourselves. But I think it's not solely responsible on you. It's about being able to have and invite others in your life who are like-minded or who have similar energies or who are working towards the same values and goals as you are, and feeling supported in that, or, you know, relying on whatever your support system looks like, because it's extremely lonely to have to go through all of this stuff by yourself and thinking like, no, it has to come from within me and I have to do it. Nobody else can help me. I think it's a very rigid mindset. And that was something that I was thinking about as you guys were talking, is that, you know, like, we're social creatures. Like, we want to have that community and that support, but what that looks like may change as we start to develop and we start to change kind of within ourselves.
My core people in my life right now, I never saw coming. They came out of nowhere. And that's how it works. When everything you just said right now is just so spot on, because if you're helping them carry that weight, that doesn't mean that their weight went away. That's not what happened. They still have it. You're just actually, unfortunately, helping them perpetuate it. If they're on their healing journey and actually committed to it and you're supporting them, like, that is why I'm so selective on my core friends that I lean on, because we're all on our healing journeys and we all support each other through this, but we're not helping each other perpetuate that same misery that we were going through. And if you say, well, if I leave them, then who's going to support them? They're going to be all by themselves and whatever. But honestly, if you keep abandoning yourself for this person and you're depleted, you're not there for them either. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I will say, for me too, as you said it, I was thinking about like my friends that I have right now, and I just think it's so interesting how our friendships have developed, but they're just like so awesome that I feel like I just feel like when I get together with my friends now, we have these deep conversations, but they're so great because it's just us like talking to each other, and like we may like, you know, talk about what's going on with us, like in not a negative way, but like our problems or things like that. But our friend, like my friends personally, are so like there to like not call me out or anything like that, but like we dig deeper. Like, why do you think that this is happening? And it's not like they're like, oh, well, screw that, or, you know, kind of like how you did like in high school and things like that. But it's like now a deeper level of trying to understand and connect and, you know, recognize maybe patterns or what can I do differently, and not always just blaming other people. And I love it when I get together with my friends because we are so like, you know, deep into that, and it's awesome.
You have a constructive, safe environment.
Absolutely.
Yes. Cut through the bullshit and then
besides Shamina.
What?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
What did you say?
I said besides Shamina, but I was kidding.
You're right. I'm the worst one out of them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she the A1.
Since day
Yeah,
one.
it's your circle is everything. They say you are the people you surround yourself with, and we should all take that really seriously. Like, really review the people in your life. Be like, okay, are these the patterns that I want to repeat too? Because this is what I'm seeing as normal, and accepting the people you accept around you that's your boundaries as well. You're showing people what you're going to accept. So if one person in your circle is, you know, bullying you or whatever it may be, then you're saying that that's your boundary, that's okay. And not only is it okay, but you're going to allow it into the closest parts of yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't have any further questions, but I did want to say thank you for explaining what you do. And then I know we kind of went off, and so thank you for entertaining that. But if you want to, I don't know if you want to give any information on your own business and put that out there for anyone. If not, then thank you so much. At least from me, I really learned a lot. And I think it helps me for in the future being more comfortable to go and do something, to go and have a reading. Because I think before, like I was telling Shamina, like, no, I'm too scared. Like, I don't know. So I think now I feel a little bit more at ease of like, oh, okay, like I know what to expect, and that helps.
Yeah, we're not calling on any like craziness. We're not inviting anything in. All I'm reading is your energy and what comes through for that. So Absolutely. I have my website, which is elevate333.com, or my Instagram is RISALIN 333. I check either of those messages. That's how a lot of my clients reach out. So I am always available there. But seriously, thank you all so much, because even this is a form of healing for me, having these open conversations with you.
Thank you for allowing us to hear your story and for being vulnerable with us and kind of educating us on also what you do and how you kind of cultivate that into your daily life.
Yes, well, you're welcome. And thank you so much for having me. I love this.
Yes, you're welcome back whenever.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Woo!
Well, that was exciting.
Yeah, I think that was very knowledgeable for me.
Yes. So for our viewers, if you're wondering why I was being a little more quiet or not asking as many questions, so I have actually had a reading done by Risa, and that is going to be discussed probably in our next episode after this. So you will get to hear firsthand what it was like from my experience to go through this reading, what we did together in the session, what I kind of took away from it. And so that's why I was being a little more quiet and laid back during this what are we doing podcast? I almost was like this therapy session, but that's not what this is.
But let's be real. Are you ever really the loud one that is assertive, or?
I mean, there was once I was like, wait, Carly, don't wait. I got a question first.
Oh, well, it's funny because I think, man, I feel like our listeners or people who watch us on YouTube, they probably think I'm a weirdo, but I mean, I guess I am, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, I see some of my faces I make when we're in the camera and I'm like, so like, okay, anyways, let's, where are we at right now?
Are you feeling full yet?
Are you?
If not,
consider
this. We should do an accent every time we do that.
No.
So we kind of want to hear, your feedback kind of about this session, or just, your experiences with like spirituality or energy and what that has kind of been like for you, because I know for me, this was very new until I like took the time to understand what this was and doing some more research. And there are a lot of similarities to what I do in therapy and what Risa does with her own work. But we want to hear from you guys. Like, what are your experiences with spirituality or religion or, energy, your kind of own healing, spiritual awakening, all of the things.
And I would like to make a note that I have gotten feedback that maybe emailing and texting is not the most ideal. So remember that you guys can message us on like Instagram. You can put a comment on YouTube as you're watching, like shoot a little comment. Hit us up on Facebook, like whatever is convenient for you guys, like reach out to us. It doesn't have to be the texting or the emailing, because sometimes you're not like, oh, let me compose an email right now. So we get that. But if you do want to, our email is emotionfulpod@gmail.com. And then if you do want to text us, that is 813-444-3482. But again, we have Instagram, shoot us a message. We have Facebook, shoot us a message. YouTube, when you're watching something hits you, make a comment of it. We'll see it, respond. We just want to
comment. Anything.
Yeah. Like us, subscribe us, share us, tell your friends, your family, your neighbor.
Yes. Whoever. But no, we do want to hear from you guys in whatever platform you're most comfortable with, in whatever way is going to be easiest for you. So DM us, like, subscribe, comment, whatever that is. We want to hear from you guys, because ultimately we do this to...
We need you.
Yeah. We do this for you. Listen.
And also Patreon. I think we've forgotten to talk about that the last few episodes. I don't know. But we still have Patreon. We have gotten a few patrons, so yay. But please check us out, even if you can't right now donate or whatever. That's totally cool, but check it out because it has some other posts and stuff. Like Shamina will sometimes give her professional feedback. I don't know if that's the right word, but she'll give her
I'll like provide different resources and things that we may talk about in a podcast, like the Boundaries podcast I referenced, like documents I would upload. So they're uploaded on our Patreon account. But kind of go check it out if you want additional content or exclusive access to our episodes before they actually air, or bloopers or behind the scenes, whatever that kind of looks like.
Yeah, because some of it is public for anyone. So even if you're not a member, now some of it you do have to be a member, but I think right now we've been doing a lot of public stuff. So, you can check it out. And yeah, I think that's all that I can think of.
That's all she wrote, folks.
Okay, so
next week for my perspective on my intuitive reading and what that was like working with Risa, because I'm very excited to share that with all of you. And yes. We'll see you then.
Yes, sounds good.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.